Today on CityCast Chicago.
If that voice sounds familiar, it's because when sitting on a CTA bus or train, every few moments you hear it announcing the next stop, where to transfer, or what side the doors open on. No, it's not a robot. It's actor Lee Crooks, and it has been for 25 years. Lee tells us how he ended up on every bus and train in the city. It's Thursday, November 16th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago is talking about. Lee, we're happy to have you here on CityCast Chicago.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Each one of our intros ends with the same tag every single day, which is I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago is talking about. I'd love to just hear I'm Lee Crooks, and this is what Chicago is talking about.
I'm Lee Crooks, and this is what Chicago's talking about.
Jesus Christ, man. This isn't your first time hearing this, but you have a fantastic voice, Lee.
Thank you.
So I got to ask, what do you think makes for an effective voice of transit? I mean, essentially, you are the voice of guidance across trains and buses in our city.
What I try to do is make sure it's very articulate, it's pronounced clearly, doesn't have a particular, I'm not trying to make it sound real happy or anything. I'm also trying not to be boring. I'm trying to dispense information in the most efficient way possible. And so, the way I talk in my normal life isn't how I talk on the trains or the buses, because people would look at me funny. But I'm trying to give them the information that they need to get to where they're going as efficiently as possible.
I mean, obviously, there are so many different stops between trains, buses, so many names. What does your process look like?
What we do is when we have a recording session for the trains or buses, it's all laid out, on a spreadsheet sort of thing. And, the other columns of the spreadsheet talk about where it's going to be used. Sometimes we record fragments, and then you need to know what that fragment is in context. So maybe I'll say, this is, what's the context?
Jesus Christ, when you jump into that voice, I'm not gonna lie, it's both very impressive, but then there's a level of anxiety my body kicks into, because typically if I'm hearing that voice, I'm crowded in between a bunch of people or waiting for a bus or train that I thought was going to be here 5 minutes earlier. Sorry, I cut you off.
That's
you were
okay.
talking a little bit about your process.
No, not at all. I think that's funny. The process actually is just show up at the session, and the sessions now, since the pandemic, are all done here. Like I'm doing this with you right now. We've got it's a Zoom call, and we've got 3 or 4 producers on the line, listening, making suggestions, both about inflection, about pronunciation, how we're going to, again, the context that we're going to use it in. So those decisions are all made pretty much on the fly in the recording session. So I don't do anything before that other than get my voice warmed up, because I'm 64 now, and as I'm getting older, it takes a little while to get the voice going in the morning. I sound a little bit crackly in the morning, but it'll smooth out as I talk. So.
You mentioned warming up your voice and what that looks like for you. I mean, I got my own process. I do the podcast Monday through Friday every single week.
Right.
So there's a few things I got to do, but what does that look like for you?
For me, I have some singing tapes that I've accumulated over the years. I mean, and they're not tapes, they're CDs, but boy, I'm old school. I've got 3 or 4 different things that I rotate through.
I find myself singing the alphabet a lot in English and in Spanish. It's one of the only things I remember from high school Spanish is the alphabet. But I find myself singing that a couple of times a day to kind of get warmed up.
That works, yeah. You can do mouth exercises too, and I have a few tongue twisters that I do. I have a long time ago, I was working with a speech coach, and she gave me. We created this list of disclaimers that I do all the time, which is Some restrictions apply. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. See retailer for details. And it goes on and on for about 20 seconds. And that gets the diction going.
You talked about since the pandemic recording from the studio, and I know you're in Milwaukee. Do you come up to Chicago as often?
No, and I miss that. Sincerely. I used to drive to Chicago or take the train down to Chicago, not the CTA, unfortunately. The train between Milwaukee and Chicago is Amtrak. I would take that 3 to 5 times a week and go to the different recording studios. Technology, as we all know, has changed, and a lot of what we do now is virtual.
So when you would come into the city in those moments you were on a train or on a bus, how does it feel to listen to yourself? Are you used to it by now? You know, what does it feel like to hear your recording voice?
After 25 years, I'm finally used to my voice. But it has taken 25 years to get used to my voice. And it's more of, I kind of tune it out. Mm-hmm. But like anybody, I listen to my voice and go, ooh, no, that's not what I really. So I sort of divorce myself. Yeah, exactly. You know, I divorce myself from what I'm doing and try to think like a producer and go, is this what I want this voice to do? And maybe do retakes. We do multiple takes of everything. It's not like I just go, this is Fullerton, and do it once. We do it at least 3 times, and lots of different inflections in there.
What would be your favorite stop to record? Like the one that you just like the way it roll off the tongue?
My favorite is This Is Chicago, because just something about the way I hit that one. I didn't realize it until after I heard it. I was literally standing under the L tracks on my way to a recording session, and a train pulled up, and I heard the thing go, "This is Chicago," and I went, got it on that one. So that's sort of become my favorite.
I mean, how did you hear about the CTA gig? Did you see it somewhere? Did it come through an agent? You know, how did you find yourself auditioning to be the voice of Chicago Public Transit?
It came through my agent. I had an agent. We had just gotten back from Disney World, and there was an email in my email box and said, CTA is looking for a voice to replace the muffled conductor sounds. The muffled conductor sounds on the CTA, and would you like to audition? I'm like, of course. But then the question became, what do we do for a voice for the CTA? I didn't know exactly what a trained voice sounded like. So I went, well, we just got back from Disney World. They had a voice on the monorail. How about I do an imitation of that guy? Okay. Now, he was a little more, hi, this is, Disney monorail. And it was, which would be, I thought, a little
too excited for the 6 p.m. rush hour
exactly.
at Jackson.
Exactly. Or the 6 a.m. people who are still trying to wake up with their coffee. It's like, they'd be going, oh, I don't want to hear this guy. So I tried to do something between that and a phone prompt sort of voice. Sent the audition off and didn't hear anything for 6 months.
Jeez.
Yeah, after a couple of weeks, I thought, okay, well, I didn't get that one. And then one day my agent called me and said, well, CTA called and they want to hear some more, but we think you got the gig. And I did. And here I am.
So over these couple of decades, what does it look like to update? You talked about what it means technically from coming into Chicago a couple times a week to digital, but what does that process look like?
My agent negotiated a contract, and so they call me up, say we have 15 or 20 lines that we have to do. I'm always fascinated that some of the lines are things that I've already done, but maybe they decided they wanted a different inflection, or there's a different context they're using something in. We had, I think it was in April, there was some fights breaking out on trains, and so we did an update.
COVID updates during that time? Like,
reminding absolutely.
People, what did that sound like?
I think there was something about masking, making sure, and please be considerate of other people. and distance yourself on the trains when they started, redoing the trains.
Yeah, I guess even as we're having this conversation, I'm sort of remembering, like, it's not just stop names, but it is that helpful information.
If your Ventra card is expiring, here's where you go, those kind of things. Yeah.
Do you know which L stop was Chicago's busiest in 2022?
Wow.
I can give you some options.
Please do. Give me a multiple choice.
Clark and Lake, Blue Line O'Hare, or Red Line Lake Street?
I'm going to go with Red Line Lake Street.
Red Line Lake Street is the right answer. 2.7 million rides in 2022.
Holy cow.
So you are 100% right on that one. All right.
Wow.
I got another one for you. At which stations can you transfer among all the L lines minus yellow? And there are two.
Because I did the announcements for this, I should know this one. I think it's Lake.
Lake, brown, purple, orange, green, pink at State and Lake with red at Lake would transfer to Blue Line, Washington Station. And then the other, Jackson, Harold, Washington Library. The Jackson Tunnel connects blue and red, and the others are on the elevated line.
See, you know more about this stuff than I do, and I've done all the announcements for it.
Do you ever get recognized?
I've had a couple recording sessions where I've been working on some totally unrelated project, and the producer will go, "Your voice sounds really familiar. Where do I know you from?" And I know what the answer is.
This morning's commute.
I usually play with them a little bit, and I go, "Well, you ever ride the trains?" He goes, "Yeah, I ride the train every day." I said, "What's your stop?" Jackson. And I'll go, "This is Jackson." And
every time you do it.
And I love the look on their face when they see it. So it's just fun for me.
Have you ever been on the train with your family and friends and gotten their reaction from it?
Believe it or not, I've only done it with my youngest daughter. When she was little, she's like, "Hey, Daddy, I want to, ride the train and hear your voice." And so we got on a Red Line train and we, went down and back, and, she really enjoyed that. My wife has never heard it. My other daughter has heard it, but not with me. Simultaneously, she was traveling, I believe, with her husband somewhere in Chicago. So.
Now, I know this is, in many cases, it's a job, right? But you've come into the city of Chicago, you know, native of Milwaukee. Has this job been at all an opportunity to learn more about Chicago, or do you have some things you love about the city that, maybe you didn't even know about before you started doing this?
Absolutely. Chicago is such a wonderful city. There's so many things you can do, excellent restaurants. The arts and entertainment is unparalleled. And so by simply coming down for all those years before the pandemic, and now I record here, got to know the city a little more. Not as much as you might think, because a lot of times it was come down, do the recording sessions, drive back home. But sometimes I would spend a little more time in the city and get to know the city. And, it's such a vibrant, incredible city. And everybody I've run into has been very welcoming.
Well, next time you come here, a couple of places you want to stop at that are off some L stops. You can hit the Garfield Park Conservatory, which is right off the Central Park Green Line. Mm-hmm. The National Museum of Mexican Art is off the Damon Pink Line.
Okay.
The Uncle Remus, we just did an episode about the famous chicken joint out in Austin, is off the Central Green Line. We'll send you this list of some great Chicago places next time you're in the city. And hopefully that next time your wife can finally hear the voice that the rest of us are so damn familiar with. Lee, I appreciate you making time for us.
Thanks, Jacoby. Really appreciate it.
Before I let you go, I got some good news. The Promontory in Hyde Park has got back-to-back weeks of storytelling on Thursdays. Tonight at 6 p.m., you can hit up Grown Folks Stories. You can put your name in the hat and tell your own story. And next Thursday at 6 p.m., doors open for karaoke storytellers. Trust me, these are two of the best shows in the city. And I ain't just saying that because I've hosted both of them. You can check the show notes for ticket links. As always, we appreciate you for listening. Make sure you're reading along with our website at chicago.citycast.fm. And while you're there, subscribe to our daily newsletter, Hey Chicago. We'll be back bright and early tomorrow, looking back on some of the big stories from the week. I'll talk to you then. Peace.